Hello everyone, welcome back to Ronin's Den. My name is Eric and we are continuing our companion series for our 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons campaign of The Night Below. And in this video, we're going to be talking about recovery and coming back from the dead. Okay, so last video we talked about combat and how you can take damage. Let's talk about how you recover from it. If you're coming from a 5th edition playset, you're going to notice some differences right away, and it's going to feel like a bit of culture shock to you. We all know in 5th edition to recover hit points, you have your short rest and your long rest. Short rest, roll your hit dice, figure out how much you recover. Long rest, you go to sleep, you take a really good nappy nap, you wake up and poof, all of your hit points are back. It's like nothing happened at all. 2nd edition is not like that in the least. In fact, it makes the gritty realism rules in 5th edition look very comfortable and cozy. All right. So you've taken some damage in 2nd edition. How are you getting your hit points back? Well, there are 2 ways. You have natural healing and you have magical healing. When it comes to natural healing, if you were doing any kind of strenuous activity, combat, blacksmithing, weaponsmithing, things of that nature, you will regain 0 hit points for that day. You only regain hit points when you're resting. Now, they don't call it this in the book. I call it this, a day of light rest. This is riding your horse, traveling around, doing your laundry, going about your day. You recover a single hit point per day of light rest. When you take a complete day of bed rest, though, you regain 3 hit points. Now, when it comes to complete bed rest, you have the option to keep yourself laid up for an entire week. If you do that, you gain an additional bonus to your healing, which is equal to your Constitution modifier. So if you remember back to our videos about the 6 ability scores, when we were talking about Constitution, depending on what your score was, and if you were a member of the warrior group or not, you could possibly get an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, or even more hit points when you roll hit dice when you level up. That bonus is what you could add to your week's worth of bed rest if you do a true week's worth of bed rest. And it does mean bed rest. You're not traveling. You're not getting up to do your laundry. You are laying in bed the entire time, resting and healing. Now, 2nd edition does have the healing non-weapon proficiency. And I feel like this is something that gets slept on. Now, I don't mean that people don't take it. I know plenty of people who have taken this non-weapon proficiency over the years. I mean people take it and then they forget that they got it and they don't communicate that they're using it. Do not sleep on the healing non-weapon proficiency if you have it, people. Okay, first of all, it allows your character to heal a target a D3 points of D3 hit points worth of damage if they tend the wounds of that character within 1 round of them receiving them. So I get hit by a sword, I take 7 points of damage. My teammate sees that, they break away from combat, they come over, they try to treat my wounds, they roll a non-weapon proficiency check. Hey, look, success. They roll a D3. Oh, look, I get 2 hit points back right away because my teammate healed me. That's what that looks like in practice. But where I feel like this non-weapon proficiency truly shines is with the bonuses that it gives when you're tending to a character during rest periods. So it does nothing if the player is doing strenuous activity, engaging in combat, blacksmithing, training, that kind of thing. Still, goose egg, 0 hit points regained in that situation. But if the character is just doing the what I call light rest, riding their horse from one town to the other, going about their day, doing their laundry, things of that nature, they can increase the daily hit points regained by 1. So in that case, a character would regain 2 hit points per day of light rest if they are tended to by a character with the healing non-weapon proficiency. Now, if the healer is tending to somebody who is taking complete bed rest, they can actually increase the healing rate by an additional 2 hit points per day. So somebody who would be getting 3 hit points per day would now be getting 5 hit points per day, which is really good. Now, if the healer also has the herbalism non-weapon proficiency, they can increase that healing by an additional point, providing a 3 hit point per day bonus to the natural healing rate. So somebody who's laid up for complete bed rest could be regaining 6 hit points per day. Now, I think that this is awesome. I think it's truly awesome in 2nd edition. And in some cases may even beat out magical healing. I think magical healing is the perfect thing when you're in combat situations. I think that the healing non-weapon proficiency is the perfect thing for the in-town downtime healing situation. Because when it comes to magical healing, you still need to roll a die to see how much hit points are recovered, right? So with Cure Light Wounds, they roll that die and it's a D8. So the character could recover 1 hit point or 8 hit points per casting. Granted, a healer could do multiple castings of that spell in one sitting, but if you're resting in town and you don't have any pressing matters, sure, you can just keep refilling your spells every day, but I think the healing non-weapon proficiency outshines it. And then the other versions of the healing, Cure Serious Wounds is 2d8 plus 1. Cure Critical Wounds is 3d8 plus 3. And then the big daddy of all healing spells, Heal, which literally recovers practically everything for the character. Blindness, enfeeble mind spells, and all hit points that are lost from injury. I mean, that, if you can cast that, amazing, great, do it. But these are just going to reduce your downtime in towns, and the healing non-weapon proficiency, I think, does a fantastic job of doing that on its own. Okay. Now let's say you have gotten to a point where you've taken too much damage, though, and you can't be healed. You're at 0 hit points. We know from the combat video that means your character is dead, right? Well, not necessarily. See, 2nd edition has a optional rule that I play with in all of my games, so I don't consider it optional. I consider it just how the game is played. It's called the hovering on death's door rule. So, regular game, 0 hit points, your character is dead. You have to reroll a new one or go get a resurrection. We're going to cover those here shortly. But what hovering on death's door does is says when the character hits 0 hit points, they just immediately drop to the ground unconscious. Now, the way I rule this in my games is any damage that would put a character at 0 or less hit points immediately drops them to 0. I don't do the carryover damage in my games. At that point, the player is going to lose 1 hit point per round from bleeding out. They're going to just take continual damage every round. So technically, they have 10 rounds before they hit negative 10 hit points. If they reach negative 10 hit points, they are dead at that point in time. That's when they need to go for a resurrection. But if at any point in time during those 10 rounds, another player goes over and tends the wounds. Now, this doesn't say in the description that they have to have the healing skill or any of that. It just says they need to be able to tend the wounds. They will stop that bleeding, and you can then cast healing spells and all of that in order to raise them up after the fact. Or if a cure spell of any type is cast, it'll immediately restore the player to 1 hit point. This is different for the heal spell. The heal spell still functions as normal. So if the player goes down, they're at 0 hit points. 2 rounds go by, they're at -2. Cleric casts heal. Boom. Player is back up at full hit points. That still works. Personally, I find this to be a more forgiving death system than 5th edition's death savings throws. Just my opinion, but I think that this adds more survivability to the character when this is put into practice. Okay, let's say, though, your character went 11 rounds and now they are truly dead. They're gone, right? Not necessarily. Your character can come back to life in 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, just like any version of Dungeons & Dragons. There are resurrection spells, and one of them is actually called Resurrection. So, the first option available to bring a dead character back to life is actually provided by a wizard. A wizard can cast Reincarnation on your corpse, and within a couple of turns, your character will show back up to the party in one of the following bodies. Anything from a bugbear to a dwarf, an ogre mage, a kobold, a troll. Your character reappears as one of those creatures to the party. Now, that's pretty cool. Wizards can do that. Option number 1 to bring your character back to life. Option number 2 is the priest can do the same thing. The priest can cast Reincarnate, and your character can come back to life in one of their table's bodies. Now, personally, I do not think that the role for the priest is as good as the roles for the wizard. The priest has things like badgers and bears and eagles, which are going to be pretty hard to role play as a person. And it's going to limit that character's functionality with the group. Now, there are options like elf and humans, gnomes, satyrs, even pixies. And those will be a little bit more beneficial or easier to play, I should say, as a character with a group. But the priest reincarnate is not my favorite way to bring somebody back. If reincarnation's being done, I would rather have it come from a wizard. Personal bias, I know, but that's the thing. And then you have the 2 true raising of dead spells. You have the level 5 priest, raise dead. Now, this costs the recipient 1 constitution point when it is cast. You also have to roll on the resurrection survival check table. Now, remember, back to our video on ability scores. I know I do this a lot in our videos. I say, remember back to this video before, but remember back to our video for the 6 attributes. In Constitution, one of the columns was resurrection survival. Just because resurrection is cast on you in 2nd edition, it does not guarantee that your character comes back from the dead. There is a chance, depending on their constitution, and the higher the constitution, the better the chance that they survive the resurrection, that they just can't be resurrected. With the case of raised dead, there's a time limit, which is 1 day per 1 day of death per level of the priest casting the spell. So a level 20 priest could raise dead on a character who's been dead up to 20 days. When they are resurrected, they have 1 hit point. So the character will have to go through natural healing, magical healing, in order to get them back on their feet and being able to function with the party. Then we have the true granddaddy of resurrection spells, Resurrection. This is a level 7 priest spell. The time limit for this is 10 years per level of the priest casting the spell. What I like about this spell, especially if you're playing in a high-level campaign and you have an old party that died somewhere along the way, if your party is able to find the corpse or the bones of the previous party, the current priest could resurrect old party members and deceased characters from your TPK's past and bring them back into the party. Something to think about. But you could also raise long dead heroes in times of great need. Now, there is a stipulation that the being who's having resurrection cast on them, they could not have died from natural causes. So old age. If they reached their maximum life expectancy and died, resurrection does not work on them. But if it's a hero, let's say like a world-renowned swordsman who died in a duel, but the tomb for them is in town, and they died like 5 years ago. Technically, the priest could resurrect them and get their assistance with a current problem. When resurrection is cast on a character, they still need to roll on the resurrection survival check, but they are raised with full hit points. Resurrection flips who needs to do the recovery. So raised dead, the priest is fine, the character loses a constitution point, and they start with 1 hit point. The priest casts resurrection, the character raises with full hit points, and the priest must have 1 day of bed rest per each level of the target that was resurrected. So if a priest resurrects a level 10 character, they need to undergo 10 days of complete bed rest for that resurrection. After that, they can go about their lives as per normal. And I mean, there you go. That is how you recover hit points and come back from the dead in 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Short, sweet, and to the point. I didn't touch on the spells that turn characters into undead, because there are some create undead spells that wizards and priests have access to. We were mainly looking at how to get your character back to life in the way that they were before they died and how to get their hit points back. So if you found this video helpful, informative in any way, shape, or form, please go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button. It does a world of good in getting these retro 2nd edition videos out in front of the people who are looking for them. We are continuing our Night Below campaign. We had to put it off a week due to players not being able to make it this one. But when we pick back up, the players will be going into Broken Spire Keep, which is bound to be super exciting. I actually cannot wait to run that session. I'm on pins and needles. And we are continuing our Fabula Ultima game every other Saturday and uploading Fabula Ultima content as well. So until next time, we will see you here on Ronin's Den.